Good evening. It's my privilege to welcome you to the business meeting for the Provo City School District Board of Education. It is Tuesday, October 13th, 2020 at 7:10 p.m. We will begin with a roll call. McKay?
McKay Jensen, board member.
Rebecca Nielsen, board member.
Keith Rutell, superintendent.
Jim Pedersen, board president.
Melanie Hall, board vice president.
Julie Rash, board member.
Jennifer Partridge, board member.
Stephanie Bryant, business administrator.
Nate?
Nate Bryson, board member.
And we welcome Nate Bryson, who is joining us from San Francisco. Is there a motion to convene the business meeting of the Provo City School District?
So moved.
Moved by board member Rebecca. I'm going to repeat your last name, Nielsen.
Call me whatever
It hasn't been a long day. I think I told somebody once I get up at 4:30 in the morning, so by this time I want to go to bed with the chickens, but I don't get to.
I second.
Second by board member Partridge. We are officially convened in the business meeting of the Provo City School District. We will now have some opening remarks by board member McKay Jensen. Following board member Jensen's opening remarks, we will have the Pledge of Allegiance, which will be led by Jason Cox, our deputy superintendent.
So I'm going to start out with something from Arthur Brooks's column, opinion piece this week. But I'm going to embellish it a little, so it's not a direct quote. So he says, the fall is going to be rough, politically, and COVIDly, and every other possible way. The election will be brutal and bitter. There's no way to avoid this. But Americans have to decide whether we want our own lives to be brutal and bitter as well. Each of us has political views. Many of them are strongly held. Each of us is convinced that we are right, and some of us might well be right. But if we let those views dominate our thoughts, our time, and our conversations, they will harm our relationships, and they will harm our happiness. We can be happier if sometimes we just let our opinions go. Now I'm going to offer a prayer because, frankly, we need it. Our Father in heaven, we're grateful for the chance we have to be among people that are interested in the community and interested in children, interested in the future. We're grateful for this good place that we live, the good people that live here, all the good efforts that are made on behalf of children and students in this district. We're grateful for the people who work for this district and the time and effort that they do put in well above their compensation. Please bless their efforts and keep them. Please keep all of our students well. Please keep all of our teachers well, and help us to know the things to do and how to care for each other. We ask for this fervent blessing, Father, in the name of Jesus Christ, amen.
Amen.
If we'll all please rise. Join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We will move on now to our community connections, and the first item that we have is to invite public input to hear the presentation of any arguments for or against the proposed bond. And let me first mention that we have a pro-bond statement, but no anti-bond or con statement was submitted. And let me just read for all of you what the pro statement says. The Provo City School District is seeking $80 million to replace a portion of Timpview High School that has been irreparably damaged by the movement of soil beneath the building. This bond will replace the south gym and the academic wing of the school, and will implement a water mitigation plan that will eliminate the risk of this problem happening again in the rebuild areas. During the spring of 2017, school officials noticed evidence of settling, cracked walls, burst pipes, and a cinder block that fell through the ceiling of the library were all early warning signs that the school was structurally unsound. 9 different engineering and architectural firms were brought in to evaluate the school, and they all said that the problems at the school needed to be addressed immediately. Timpview's deteriorating state was noticed by the Utah Division of Risk Management. This state agency promotes safety and insures schools. In early 2019, the division's director, Brian Nelson, cautioned the district and said it should make every effort to eliminate promptly the structural threats that are present at Timpview High School for the safety of the students, faculty, staff, and community. When last year's bond failed and an excavation and examination of the soil below the school showed that the condition was worse than was previously believed, the Division of Risk Management explained that they would need to withdraw Timpview's insurance, an act which would render the school unusable. As a result, the district entered into an agreement with the Division of Risk Management, where the district promised that they would immediately begin rebuilding the affected areas of the school and would have constant monitoring on site over the next 2 years to ensure the safety of our children. This agreement and the resulting bond is the best choice for our students and the taxpayers. The alternative was to hold class in 40 portable classrooms. This would have displaced the majority of the school into a portable city and cost the taxpayers an additional $2.5 million per year until the building was reconstructed. Unlike most bond elections, the result of this vote will not determine if the project will go forward. Because of the urgency, the project has already begun, and the board has promised to use a lease revenue bond to pay for the construction if the bond fails. This means that the board will borrow the money at a higher interest rate to rebuild the school if this bond does not pass. So please vote for this bond because it will keep our children safe and will reduce the amount we end up paying in taxes. And for additional information, there is a website that individuals are invited to visit for additional detail. I will now open the meeting to public comment, and I have received one form from Mr. Alan Brock. If you would come forward and address the board, please. And all you need to do is just announce your name.
Okay, my name's Alan Brock, and I appreciate the opportunity you've given me to address you this evening. And just want to give you my appreciation, share my appreciation to the board for the time and the effort that you put in to make sure that our children get an education and make sure that their needs are met. And specifically in this environment that we're caught in, or that we're part of, I truly appreciate you sticking with it, even though I know there's numerous voices against you and for you. I appreciate your work. I feel it, as I saw this was on the agenda this evening, I felt it a duty to come down and share my thoughts with you. I was very disheartened last year that the bond did not pass. It seemed as there was a couple groups within the community, a couple businessmen that decided that they wanted to oppose it, and it felt like more a misinformation process than anything else. But as I look at it, I feel like it's my civic duty that's owed to come down here, that's owed to my children, to my neighbor's children, to my neighbor's grandchildren. I'm a Like it or not, sometimes depending on if I miss a grammatical speech problem in my English grammar. I am a proud person to have graduated from American Fork High School and from the school district here in Utah County. According to John Kernan, an article written in February 25th of 2020, he ranks Utah as the 11th lowest in the country for property taxes. The 11th lowest at 0.64%. The lowest is 0.27%, which is about nearly a third, but it's also the state of Hawaii where I'm sure property values are quite more expensive. The highest is 2.47% for property taxes. In the last 2 states I've lived in, my property taxes have pretty much been double than what I pay in the state of Utah. I really don't have an issue with my taxes, property taxes going up $25, $50, $100 a year if it means that kids get to go to school in a building that's safe, in an environment that's safe. On the flip to that, Utah also generally ranks 49th to 50th in spending per child per year on education. Essentially, we're dead last. Dead last in money spent on education, and I don't know how we can be happy with that. Utah gives sales tax deductions to businesses, and I don't have the exact figures, but what I have from various reporting is in 2016, we gave $120 million away as a sales tax exemption to business. The state of Utah gave $55 million away in 2018 and nearly over $150 million in 2019 with no transparency. There's no transparency for the sales tax commission to tell you who they're giving exemptions to. In addition, there's a tax credit, and I take this from the government's website. Whether growing from within or recruiting targeted industry firms, Utah continues to, quote, lead the nation with its business-friendly environment. Wow, we lead the nation with our business-friendly environment, and what that means is, right after, is a paragraph saying we recruit businesses to come to this state and we give them a sale or an income tax credit. Among the businesses that get it, there's over 209 listed on the page, but we give Adobe, eBay, Amazon, P&G, Boeing, Northrop Grumman, and others that do business with Provo School District. And I'm wondering what we get in return for that. I would just encourage the board to look at this, talk to the state school board, engage our politicians to right this wrong. Thank you for the time to speak to you tonight.
Thank you very much for taking the time to be with us this evening, Mr. Brock, and we appreciate your insight. And thank you. Are there any other individuals who would wish to address the board pertaining to bond? Seeing none, I close any public comment related to the bond. Let's see, Jason, we'll invite you to come forward now for employee recognition, the Provo Way Award.
Thank you so much again for this opportunity. We have some wonderful people we get to recognize tonight. You know, it's interesting. I don't know that this is something you would ever joke about, but we have great attendance tonight from the people who have been recognized for the Provo Way Award. The one person who couldn't be here has been impacted by COVID. So, you know, and they gave a lot of notice about why they couldn't be here. So we have great attendance tonight, and we want to thank these wonderful people who we're recognizing tonight. They do such a great job in the community, in our schools. I've had the opportunity to work with some of them as parents in our school buildings, and I just want to say thank you to each of them. So tonight, the process of recognizing them, we're going to watch our video. Before we get started with the video, though, I would like to call out their names really quickly of our Provo Way Award winners. We have Jenny Frame, Natalie Hellquist. Oh, and as I read your name, if you'd please stand, those of you that are here tonight. Jenny Frame, Natalie Hellquist, Colleen Bevan, Rachel North, and Julianne Hoffman. Congratulations to them. We do have a video that we've put together, and afterward, we'd like to ask all those who are receiving the award tonight to to come up, and we'd love the board to get a chance to thank you personally for the work that you do as a part of our community. So we'll have you come up after the video is completed.
Well, good morning and welcome to Provo High School. We're a few members of the Celebrations Committee, and we're here to recognize our Provo Way Award recipient for this month. It's Julie Hoffman. She teaches English here at Provo High School. We're going to go surprise her.
And on behalf of the entire Board of Education, we want to thank you for making Provo High School and our whole district a great place to be. It's because of teachers like you that we are a good place to be. So we appreciate all that you do, and especially during this time with all the craziness of a pandemic, we appreciate all the effort that you put into teaching and the care you give your students.
Julie, you're a wonderful teacher, does a great job with, as she said, we share a lot of students and they sing her praises. Plus, she's taken the lead in AVID for the school, and that's been really helpful for all of us. So I felt like she deserved this award.
Well, thank
Congratulations,
you.
Julie.
Good morning, Provo. We're back. We're at Westridge Elementary School where we're going to celebrate first grade teacher Jenny Frame with the Provo Way Awards. We're going to sneak into her classroom and surprise her.
On behalf of the Board of Education, we want to thank you for all you do to make Westridge a wonderful place, and I especially hear that you've had just such a wonderful attitude about all the things that have been thrown at you this new school year, and we truly appreciate all that you do, so thank you.
Thank you.
Jenny has helped me from the very start with setting up Canvas and learning how to do the Chromebook and communicating with parents and students. And she just willingly has helped me every single day with my questions, and she's an expert.
Not only has Jenny helped Laurel Dean, she has helped the entire school and other schools as well. And so she is a fantastic teacher. Her kids love her, and we just love her here at Westridge. So congratulations. Thank you. That's so Thank you.
Hi everyone, we are here at Provo Peaks this morning and we're going to surprise Colleen Bevins with the Provo Way Award. So come with us, let's go surprise her.
So thank you for making Provo Peaks a wonderful place to be. We appreciate you, and we're going to recognize you at our next board meeting for that.
So Colleen advocates so well for the primary grades teachers and students, and she's always been able to read them so well so that they can be developmentally appropriately educated, and so that these little guys right here are so ready for first grade. And so I just want to thank her also for being such a professional teacher and opening my eyes into the difficulties of teaching reading at this young level. And Colleen, she really understands it, and that's why she deserves this.
Oh.
Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to Rock Canyon Elementary School. We're here to recognize one of our amazing parent volunteers, Miss Rachel North, with the Provo Way Award for all the work she's done over the years here at Rock Canyon.
Education, I want to thank you for being an outstanding volunteer here at Rock Canyon, and I'm guessing you're probably volunteering at other schools as well too. So we appreciate that the volunteers just help so much and make a big difference in our schools. So thank you for all that you do.
And she has always come into my class. She has always helped out wherever needed. And last year I had a particularly difficult class, and there were times when a certain child would be out of control or things, and I could call Rachel, she lives close by, and I would say, help! And she would be there in 2 seconds.
I'm like, I'm wearing my slippers and my hair's not done, but I'm here.
Exactly. And she would just be there. So I knew that in a heartbeat, whenever I needed anything, I could call Rachel. So that's why I wanted to nominate her, because she's my hero. Yay, Rachel!
Canyon Crest Elementary. We are the Celebration Committee from Provo City School District, and we are here to give the Provo Way Award to Natalie Hellquist. Thank you.
Natalie, we are so happy to give you this award, and I have the privilege, I get to be one of Natalie's neighbors, so I know her as well. But on behalf of the entire Board of Education, I want to thank you for all that you do. I know that you love these kids. I've had conversations with you about how much you love just helping them and helping them reach their potential. And it's teachers like you that make our district such a wonderful place to be. So thank you for all that you do.
And what an outstanding teacher she is here at Canyon Crest. Every little student that's in her class just loves her dearly. Her parents love her. The staff here at Canyon Crest loves her. And we just want her to know how much she is loved and appreciated. Oh, it's the littles. Thanks, you guys.
Hey, we'd love to have you come on up and start over on this end. We'd love for our board to give you a personal thank you. So we'll just have you start over here and work your way across, letting them thank you. Those of you that are here tonight. Come on, Julie, be brave. Here we go. Thank you again. We really appreciate you.
Okay, thank you once again to all of our award recipients, and thank you for taking the time to be here with us this evening. And you are certainly welcome to stay with us for the rest of the meeting, or if you have other things that you would like to be engaged in, we certainly would understand. We'd now be pleased to hear from Suraj, our Special Education Director, and
thank you for this opportunity. Let me get set up here. Well, it's great to be with you, and I really appreciate this opportunity. You should have a document in your board docs if you want to refer to that. And recognizing that you would never ever get bored up there, but I did leave it blank on the other side. If you printed it, you could like doodle or something. So just in case you want to do that, McKay. So let's talk about what serving students with disabilities is not about. It is not about a dog and pony show. And it's not about a one-man band. And it's definitely not about watering down opportunities that are available to all kids, right? What it is about is surrounding yourself with very caring and capable people, and I've had that opportunity here in Provo School District last year and this year, which I very much appreciate. It's also about communicating, cooperating, and coordinating with a wonderful stakeholders. As you can see up on the screen, we got parents, teachers, aides, related service providers, admin from the schools, gen ed teachers, and of course our executive council and the various departments. Stephanie Bryant doesn't know this, but I always make it a good thing to make good friends with Joe Rankin, who works with me in the business department in special ed. I really appreciate him. So we have some core beliefs in our department, and I think it's very important to have these. When I first came here last year, I sat down with my leadership and I asked them, what do you really value about what you do? And they asked me the same thing, and as we sat down, as we discussed these things, these four things came to the surface. We really believe, foremost, that students with disabilities are general ed students. We want to make sure that they're heard, that they're seen, they're valued. We want to make sure that parents are partners with us in their child's education. And IDEA, the Individual with Disability Education Act of 2004, states that the purpose of special ed is really to help prepare students for further education employment, and independent living, and that's very, very important to us. So one of the things I really want to make sure you all know and that you're really clear about is, regardless of what I present to you today, I really hope that you will come and see our teachers in action, our speech therapists in action, our school psychologists in action, that you will come to our schools and see what we're doing with these students. I extend that invitation to you, and I hope you'll take some opportunity this year to do that. We have a wonderful preschool program at Sunrise Preschool. We have a wonderful post-high program as well. And we work with students with significant disabilities at Provo Peaks quite a bit in the elementary, and we would love to see you there. I want to talk about some demographics. We have 1,588 students with IEPs in Provo City School District in school age K through 12. So in Provo School District, 11% of all students have an IEP. We have 103 students right now in preschool and special ed. That number will probably go to about 160, 165 when the school year ends. That's how the birth through 3 kids kind of come in, the 3-year-olds come in that way throughout all the year. What that really means to us is that we are down 140 students this year. And that's a lot of students. And we'll make some of that up as we go throughout the year. But we do recognize the shortage. We have various classifications that we serve here in Provo School District, different disability categories under IDEA. One important thing to remember, that any child that's eligible for services under IDEA must have an adverse effect on accessing and progressing in the general education curriculum, and they must require specially designed instruction. So just having a disability isn't enough. It really must adversely affect your education, and it must require special ed. What's interesting is that this adverse impact typically impacts the ability for the student to listen, speak, read, write, and or think. Those are all the things that we do in this meeting very naturally. We do that all the time, many of us well, others of us maybe not so well. But for the most part, that really does describe all the things that we ever ask our students to do in school. We ask them to listen, speak, read, write, and think in many various subjects and various situations. And students with disabilities who have an IEP typically struggle with one or more of these things. I also want you to understand that special education really is a set of services. It's not just one thing. It's just not a person. It's not a place. It's not a location. It's not a program. It's really about a set of services. And you can see that the number one service we offer support in is reading. I was really quite surprised, Stephanie, that special transportation, 13% of our students with an IEP have special transportation. And that's a pretty large amount, really. But we love serving our students. These are all the various services that we offer to our students with disabilities, and we enjoy serving them. The various personnel we have in special ed, 95% of our personnel directly serve students. Our biggest category, of course, is special education teachers, and then our related service providers. I'd like to talk now a little bit about the outcomes that we have in special education, and I've specifically focused on 2 things, but I want to give you a little context with the history of IDEA. What's really interesting, since 1975 to the present, there's been a greater focus on access and outcomes for students with disabilities. For many years, when I first came into this Provo City School District as a special ed teacher in 1991, the state really wanted to make sure that we were holding our IEPs on time and that we were providing those services. Now it's all about how are those services impacting our students? Are they really benefiting from them? Are they accessing and progressing in the general core curriculum? Are things working out for them? Are they transitioning to independent living and to further employment and other outcomes? I'd like to talk about the special ed preschool. They've really modeled something quite unique for us. One of our former special ed directors in the state long ago taught me the importance that when you want to learn how to improve, focus on the positive deviants. Those that are making exceptional strides, are being very effective at what they're doing, figure out what they're doing and replicate it. And so one of the reasons I want to highlight this preschool is because of what they've accomplished. you can see on this table that for many years, even before 2016-17, they weren't serving students that are in preschool alongside their typical peers. And not all their teachers were licensed. As that improved in 2018-19, the outcomes for their students really went up, skyrocketed from 65% to 95%. And they're maintaining that this year. We don't have our data from last year as to how things are. We haven't gotten that from the state, but I was quite impressed. And as I sat down with Jeremy Barker, who's our administrator there, we talked a lot about the things that he was doing intentionally there. And so we want to follow this model. We want to give more access. We want to be more inclusive with our students with disabilities. And we want to make sure that the teachers and the educators that are working with them are licensed and trained well. For school-age students, 64% of our school-age students access the typical regular classroom 80% or more of the day. And 63% is our graduation rate. We are 10% below the state average. That is one of our challenges that I'll address in just a moment, but we really want to work on how we can improve this. Let's talk about our challenges now. So I've listed 3 challenges that have come about since I've been here, since last year. I want to talk about the importance of licensed teachers. In 2019-20, only 62% of our special education teachers were fully licensed. I also want to talk about how we can overcome this challenge of participation in regular ed and graduation rates. And then I want to talk a little bit about this little thing that we've been dealing with for a while called COVID and how we're responding to that in special education. So in 1920, this is what it looked like. 62% of our students, 62% of our special ed teachers were licensed. We had 34% of our teachers that were temporary licensed. They were on an alternative route to licensure. Now what that meant is that we spent an additional $500,000 plus on instructional coaches to support 22 alternative route to licensure teachers. That's a lot of people. Some of our best special ed teachers were coaches, and therefore they could not serve students. And over 50% of our ARLs were not progressing toward a license. So, with the help of the HR department and in cooperation with them, and with Assistant Superintendent Todd McKee and Alex Judd, we worked together. And this year, in this beginning of the 2021 year, we have 92% of our teachers that are licensed. It is amazing when you live in the shadow of BYU and UVU how many teachers you can recruit. And we really capitalized on that. We repurposed our funds that were being used for instructional coaches, and we put that back into direct services for students by hiring additional related service providers and special education teachers. Something unique to Provo is we have teacher leaders who teach students part-time and support IE compliance at every school. That is a unique thing to us, and I'm very grateful for that. It allows us to work with those teacher leaders on a monthly basis to disseminate key information and to support them. All of our temporary licensed teachers right now are progressing toward a license as well. So we talked a little earlier about the 64 and 63. It's interesting about the amount of time our students are accessing the curriculum with a general education teacher, 80% or more of the day, is about where our graduation rates are. So we're going to fall away from that, and what we want to do instead is we want to higher participation in regular ed because that's going to equal the higher graduation rates. The way we're going to do that is I've been working very closely again with Todd McKee and Alex Judd and others in our schools to make sure that special education is in addition to general ed. It's not in place of. And we found that in many situations it was in place of. Many of our students were not accessing general ed in English language arts and math beginning in the 6th and 7th grade. So imagine by the time they got to 9th and 10th grade how far behind they were. When you don't access general education curriculum in those areas, you're really working below grade level, and so you remain below grade level. So what we've done is on this table, we've simply said, hey, if the student is going to be participating in the RISE or the state test for English language arts and math, they should have access to the general education curriculum. They should have access to typical peers. They should have access to a general education teacher. And what we structured in all our secondary schools now is that they can co-teach. So it's a special ed teacher and a general ed teacher working together. The students can access their general ed that way. Or they can co-teach, and for some students, they'll still need additional special ed support. So it's all about providing special ed in addition to general ed and making sure they have access to the quality teachers that they need. We've also worked on improving our special design instruction by increasing the time that we spend with kids, increasing the intensity, making it multi-sensory, using high leverage practices, and giving them multiple opportunities to respond. Addressing COVID. At the beginning of the school year, we met with all our special educators, and I shared a part of a TED Talk with them from Denzel Washington. And Denzel Washington said this: "Nothing in life is worthwhile unless you take risks. Nothing. Ease is a greater threat to progress than hardship. Fall forward." So we took that as our theme this year, to fall forward. And the way we're following forward is we're capitalizing on our 92% of our SPED teachers being licensed and hiring additional people. We didn't know COVID is coming, but because we did that and we planned for that, we've been able to be much more nimble, Superintendent. I thought I was promised these guys I used that word at least once in my presentation. But we are more nimble because we are more prepared with the quality people that we have. And also, we are working very closely with our school principals to make sure students are accessing the general ed teacher more. And in delivering specially designed instruction, we have 3 imperatives this year. We want to be safe, we want to be engaging, we want to be inclusive. And these 5 individuals and many others this summer spent a lot of time with us and helping us to figure out how we could be more safe and be more engaging and be more inclusive. We really wanted to focus on that regardless of how parents chose to access their child's education this year, their IEP services would be provided 5 days a week. That was very important to us. We also told our special educators this thing: do the best you can until you know better. Then when you know better, do better. We keep on saying that, and we are getting better, and we appreciate the support that we're getting from everyone. So I've got 2 points of pride. I sent out a questionnaire to a lot of our folks in special ed, a lot of our teacher leaders and our related service provider leads and so forth, and I asked them, hey, what would you say is a point of pride this year so far? And the 2 things that came back most were partnering with parents and working as teams. It's important that they told me that, you know what, it's really important that we help people be at their best, that we treat others with respect, that we get to the bottom of the concern and we listen deeply and demonstrate understanding. That's really been a great thing that's been modeled by so many of our teams. What's really interesting as you take a look at some of these quotes is that our teachers are telling us, you know what, the best people we really can have as volunteers in our schools are our parents. We can access them online now. We're helping them. We're training them to work with their own children. It's really been a great, successful experience. So thank you so much. What questions do you have for me?
Okay, board, questions? McKay?
How did we get so lucky to have you?
Well, I started off in Provo School District as an intern at Sunset View Elementary in 1991. And I really, really enjoyed Provo, and it's great to be coming back and be here. Thank you.
I just wanted to congratulate you on the progress that you've made. It's clear. I think that special education is a point of pride for Provo School District and what happens here. I know it's something that we work really hard on. Have you ever had the chance to meet with John Curtis or Mitt Romney?
I have not.
Do you know that special ed, the IDEA has never been funded at the level
Yes.
it's supposed to be? There are a lot of groups that advocate for that. And I'm going to work on that to get them an appointment with you.
Thank you. That'd be great. I know one thing I really appreciate is that we have I should mention, we have a consortium of special ed directors throughout the state of Utah that I meet with regularly. And really, I say this with sincerity that you really can't do this job without having a good network of people to work with.
That's great. There was a change in a little bit. There was a proposed change that was passed but not funded in the legislature last year about the percentage of students that they could access. Would that be beneficial just for my benefit? I'm at the Capitol a lot. Would that be beneficial to Provo? Or?
You know what? It really would. It would not only benefit Provo, but it would benefit the entire state. We are underfunded in special education. We work very closely within our district to make that happen. I think what you're talking about, McKay, is the idea that they might change the prevalence to 13%. Is that one of the things they're thinking of doing?
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I think that would be great. Most other states are above 12.18, and it'd be nice that if we joined the rest of the country in that. I know that maybe we're not as a growing district as others, but you know what? We have a lot of great services that are offered in our community, and a lot of people move within our district. And right now we're at 11, but we're rising. Even though our numbers are going down, we're rising overall, and then we also get very intense services as well.
So we'll work with Representative Judkins that used to be on our board that introduced that. Maybe we'll get funding for it this time.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Because it passed, it just didn't get funded. So thanks for all you do.
Thank you.
Suraj, I have a question for you. Could you just explain what you mean by the related service providers? What kinds of services do they give?
I'd be happy to, Jennifer. So related service providers, related services are things like speech, occupational therapy, physical therapy, psychological services, nursing services, health services. We have wonderful people that provide all those services to our students. Related services are very important because many of our students have barriers that are associated with their disability that really make it difficult for them to even access their special education services and their general education services. So often our speech teachers will help our students learn about pragmatic language or learn about how to be more expressive or how to ask questions. And it's very difficult to navigate schooling without those services and without those skills.
Thank you.
I just wanted to say, as a parent who utilizes a bunch of this stuff, and I've done it for years, thank you. It's good to know that my kid's being taken care of.
Thank you.
And I felt like, as a parent, that I was very included as well in the whole process. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
So the other question I have for you is, that's neat to see that you've gone so high, up to 92% in licensure. Do you see that a lot of people are not going to special ed? So is it hard to find people that are licensed?
You know what? It is difficult to find people. Typically, special ed teachers last about between 3 and 4 years, and then they leave the profession because it is so tough with not only, right now, not only do we have to provide those services, but then you've got all the paperwork, and then you've got all the meetings you've got to do after school, and there's a lot of pressure, right? And so they don't last very long, so it is difficult to recruit. One of the things that we learned right away is there was a perception here that perhaps we couldn't find them. And so what we started doing is we started creating our own pool of opportunity by allowing more student teachers and practicum students and interns in our system. We kind of created a pool of people and kind of let them have a year-long or a half-year job trial with us, right? And so then we had a pool of people to select from. So last year, we were able to hire a significant number of teachers right out of BYU and UVU because they were already part of our system for a while. So we're unique here, and that's one of the things I really love about being in Provo is we're in the shadow of these two universities that produce excellent teachers, and we get to have them in our schools before they get their license, and it's great to recruit that way.
Well, maybe when you have that meeting with John Curtis and Mitt Romney or whoever it is, to talk to him about how we can retain these teachers better.
Yeah, and now retaining is a different thing. That's tough, right? That's tough, but we are working on that. And I think a part of it really comes down to is creating a very welcoming and respectful culture that we try to have here in Provo. And we keep our caseloads down quite a bit. Most school districts around us have 30 to 35 students on a caseload for files. We're between 20 and 25 in our elementary and about 25, 27 in our secondary. We purposely keep those down because we know the workload is very heavy. And I think also that we offer lots of wonderful professional development in cooperation with Anne-Marie and her group, and that we also work, because we have those teacher leaders in the schools that can sometimes take the load off our teachers when it comes to an IEP meeting or some testing. So we try to create that kind of cooperative environment.
Are there any questions for Siraj?
I actually have one.
Okay.
I have a good friend who used to teach in special ed and does not teach any longer for some of the reasons that you've stated. Paperwork was overwhelming and whatnot. I'm interested to know, just in your opinion, what you feel like a solution would be to that. Where Melanie talked about retaining teachers, what's a good way? What can we do to help retain teachers, special ed teachers?
Well, I won't bring up pay, because that's not as, you know, it's interesting, the research actually talks about that pay is not the number one thing that they want. What they really want is they want to feel valued as an educator. I think sometimes, I had an experience a long time ago in this district that has stuck with me, where this district came to the school and was going to do some opportunities for all the teachers, and everyone was divided up in a group. And myself and the two other special ed teachers just sat there in the media in the library wondering what our group was. And the person said, "Oh, I forgot about you guys." And, you know, I got over that, you know, but I really think that is somewhat present. Sometimes we're not looked at as maybe a full educator, and I think that would go a long way to help people understand that they are valued and respected. I think the other thing is, again, if it's one or two, I think the second thing is really coming down to good professional learning opportunities for educators. That they've got to have a sense that they are themselves growing and developing their own skill set, right? So those two things actually go ahead of pay. But pay is nice also, right? So I think those three things probably really, in my mind, are things that we're working on. I think the fact that we hired so many licensed teachers, we really put the burden back on each individual teacher to stand and kind of lift where they are, not put it on someone else, and that's really helped as well. But I'm still learning how to keep them also. It's a learning process. Good question, thank you. Anything, Julie, we okay? All right.
No, I'm getting called out all over the place tonight.
Well, you made eye contact. He definitely never looks at me.
So don't look at Siraj. No, I actually am wondering, with some of those auxiliary or supplemental services that Jennifer mentioned, are we making those connections like we should? I got to follow up and attach to what Melanie said too. My kid has had some individual experiences. You guys have done a great job with him, and I know he's, you know, we Zoom with a couple of his providers, and it's gone quite well in our home. But are you finding some challenges there with this COVID thing?
You know, on the very last slide, I talked about that when I asked, how are you solving this COVID challenge that's disrupted our services? And none of them talked to each other. They all said, you know, we have found that we are much more we are being more meaningful in our approach with our parents. We have more purpose, and we feel parents are really stepping up and wanting to help us and work alongside us. And they felt this renewed energy and desire really to be with parents and work with parents more. They're asking parents to be more helpful. And I think that's really made a big difference. I really think that we've never really tapped into a big part of IDEA, which is that parents and teachers work together in the education of the child under IDEA. And if there's a golden thread to this COVID thing, we are really learning in special ed that we have amazing ability, an amazing a pool of resources that we've not tapped into when it comes to our parent community. And they can really, really help us. I think both of you have mentioned to me in the past how your eyes opened up as to what your children were learning and how they were learning and why it was important. That's happening all over, and we really appreciate that.
And I think you're exactly right that, I mean, I consider myself to be relatively engaged in my kids' education. And yeah, I've learned some things through COVID that I didn't know otherwise, simply because I have been interacting in a different way. It's been very helpful for me, actually.
Well, we've been able to also be more flexible. I think before COVID, I don't think we recognized how flexible we could be. And it's given us the reason to be flexible. We let many of our kids come every day. Some come by appointment. But all this would not be possible if it was not for the leadership team that I have, who are so caring and capable, and the people that I work with here. I mean, really, when I wondered if something is allowable, I've not been afraid to go ask. Superintendent knows that, I'll ask. And I'm given the green light to try things. And I think trying things and trying to be better every day is really what's making a difference.
Thank you.
So thank you again for the time. Thank you.
Excellent presentation, Suraj. Thank you.
Thank you, Suraj. We will now move to the general public input portion of our meeting. I have received one request to address the board and would invite Chelsea Seller to come forward at this time.
Hi, I'm Chelsea Seller. I live at 1025 West, 1200 North in Orem, but I am a teacher here in Provo. I teach at Dixon. Kind of nice hearing in the study session that Dixon, I guess, is doing okay with our schedule so far. That's very heartening. I do want to talk about moving to phase 2, maybe pros and cons, but as a teacher, I feel pretty strongly that looking at the numbers in our community, as it was said in the study session, our community is not separate from the district, from our students, our parents, our teachers here in Provo. And so we should really be looking at our community numbers and considering that as we look at possibly going to phase 2. I really appreciated a lot of the comments and a lot of the concerns that were brought up during this study session. And my perspective is that it's too soon to move to phase 2. We are not ready on the numbers. One of the things that throughout the summer I was reassured at as a teacher is that we would look at the numbers and pay attention to the science and the data when making these decisions and not necessarily going off of arbitrary, what we feel like, or an arbitrary date of end of term or whenever. I want to echo a few things that were said and address a few concerns. Consistency is key, and social distancing is key. I had a student, when I was talking to my students about possibly moving to phase 2, ask, well, how do we social distance? And I had to look that student in the eye and say, we don't. We can't. And you need to understand when we talk about mental health, that's very anxiety-inducing to students, to parents, to teachers as well. So thinking about mental health, I'm totally concerned about that. I see my students struggling to do things at home for various reasons, to do things online. But one thing I want to say as a teacher is we're aware of that, and now we're getting in the rhythm of helping those students and getting in the rhythm of making sure that our stuff is accessible and understandable. And maybe that means giving up some of the great things that we usually get to do, but doing that in favor of our students' mental health. And essentially, my question is, what's more important to us as teachers, as a district? Is the academic side more important, or is the physical and mental health more important? Because I don't think phase 2 is going to solve mental health issues that we're seeing in our students. I think it's going to make them, in some cases, worse, unfortunately. So that's kind of the question that I would want to pose to you guys, and just to let you know that teachers are in favor of staying where we are for as long as we need to. We're getting better at this as well. Thank you.
Chelsea, thank you for taking the time to address us this evening. Is there anyone else who would like to address the board during the public input portion? Seeing no one else, I will close the public input, and we will now move on to the business items. These are items that we discussed during our study session. The first item we have is there a motion to approve the fiscal year final CAFR and audit?
I move we approve the final fiscal year 20 CAFR and audit as reviewed at the September 25th board meeting.
Motion by Board Member Hall. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Board Member Rash. Is there any further discussion on the motion? Stephanie, is there anything you want to maybe make a quick note of for the public record?
Every year we issue our financial statements and we bring them to the board in October for final approval. At the September retreat, we did a review of the status of our financials and the status of the district, as well as a review of the audit. We had a clean audit this year. Only one minor verbal finding, no written findings, no management letter comments. So kudos to my team and all of their hard work. And if you have a chance to tell them thank you, please do.
Yes, Stephanie, thank you to your team and for the marvelous work you do there. If there is,
I just want to make a
yes.
comment, Jim. I just had
Yes,
an
Julie.
opportunity to just this week, Stephanie, to give praise to your department and the awards and the clean audits and the great work you guys do. And it was really good for me to be able to say that with such confidence in the work you guys are doing. So Joe and Devin and you and everybody else you work with, thanks.
I think it's marvelous that we had a clean audit. And being involved in a little bit of audits in another area in life, it's no small task to have a clean audit. And so thank you for your team's attentiveness to detail and safeguarding the district resources. If there is no further discussion, all in favor of the motion, please indicate with aye. Aye. Okay, thank you, Nate. Nate was an aye, so the motion passes unanimously. The next item is approval of the early literacy plan. Is there a motion to approve?
I move that we approve the Provo City School District Early Literacy Plan for the 2020-2021 school year as discussed in the study session.
Motion by Board Member Nielsen. Is there a second?
I second that.
Second by Board Member Partridge. Is there any further discussion on the motion? Anne Marie, anything else that you would want us to know? Okay.
Thank you to your team.
Seeing no additional comment, those in favor of the motion, please indicate with aye. 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 Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Item C, approval of the fiscal year 2021 TSSA budgets.
I move that we approve the school teacher student success account budgets for fiscal year 2021.
Motion to approve by Board Member Partridge. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Board Member Hall. Is there any additional discussion on the motion? Stephanie, is there anything you would like to add on this or any comment?
Just a quick summary in case somebody out there wasn't here for the study session. This is the teacher student success accounts. The board sets the framework for how the schools can plan their budgets around these funds, and then the board approves their funds, or excuse me, their budgets each year. So that's what this approval is for the year.
Thank you. If there are no other comments, all in favor of the motion, please indicate with aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? If so, by nay. The motion passes unanimously. Item D, approval of budget requests and adjustments. Is there a motion?
I move we approve the budget requests and adjustments as presented in the study session.
Motion by Board Member Rash. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Board Member Nielsen. Is there any further discussion of the approval of budget requests and adjustments? I think we had a good discussion of this in the study session. Seeing no further discussion, all in favor, please indicate with aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed with nay? The motion passes unanimously. Item E, approval of the high school fundraising event as discussed in study session. Is there a motion to approve?
I move that we approve the cheerleading fundraise event as it complies with all local health regulations.
Motion by Board Member Jensen. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Board Member Hall. Is there any further discussion on the motion?
I
I don't know that I feel comfortable voting for this yet. I feel like there's not enough information provided by the team. And just with so many unknowns of their dates and how the event would be run, when you combine two different fundraisers, it's a lot of money for one team for something that may not even happen yet. It was stated the reason why these big requests come before us is for equity, and I just have a hard time approving such big fundraising amounts during this time of COVID and not knowing the details of if they're going to be able to participate and how they would run the event. And also the banners. If they're doing banners, that takes away from other teams who might need a small fundraiser. So I feel like we need more information before we can decide.
Thank you, Board Member Partridge. Are there any additional comments or any additional discussion on the motion?
Stephanie, can you address if they do collect this money and they don't use it, what happens to it?
So since it's fundraising and not school fees, if they do not use it, they can leave it in their coffers for that particular, for cheer, to be used the next year. If it had been school fees, it'd have to be refunded, but the state does allow fundraising to be carried over into the next year. But it needs to stay with cheer because they did the fundraising.
Does anybody know, is this a normal fundraiser? Is this something they do every single year?
I don't know that cheer particularly has done this every single year. Banners are done quite a bit by a lot of them. I'd have to look back. Obviously, if it didn't come to the amount of 10,000, we didn't bring it to you, the board, but we could look back and see what kinds of fundraisers they've done in the past. Cheer does a lot of fundraisers. Lots of times it's car washes and stuff like that, because that's one of the more expensive activities at the high schools. So it's not unusual for them to do fundraisers. It's just the first time they brought it to us at this amount. Maybe not the first time, but in recent time.
I know that last school year, the Timpview Band and Color Guard hosted a competition and brought in about $8,000 and thought it was a successful thing and would want to do that again sometime.
Nate has some comments online.
Nate?
If I remember correctly, I think the Timpview fees, they were something like $2,200 or $2,400. They were the most expensive thing at Timpview, and you have like 50 or 60 cheerleaders. So even though the total amount is a lot, it doesn't, it's the 20,000 that they're going to raise isn't going to take a huge chunk out of the overall fee structure of that program. And I think Provo High is similar. They were the two most expensive programs around, that and dance.
Thank you. Are there any additional comments?
I'm going to take the principal's signature on both of those applications, that he's balancing the needs of his various programs in his school on who's getting what and who gets what opportunity. It's very expensive. They're going to fundraise sometime, and if we make them break that up, it seems like a goal. I don't know if they're going to get to that goal because we're going to hold their principal accountable if they're getting people together in violation of health code. They can't do events, but sort of giving them permission to have a goal of fundraising going forward and letting the principal balance out who gets what funds. Remember, by statute, any fundraising that is done by any group is actually the schools. It's the schools. And so they can say this is for cheerleading, but the principal in the end will make that decision. It's the schools. All the fundraising comes into the school.
Good, thank you. Any additional questions or comments?
I just want to add, I guess I'm a very detailed person, and I feel like if they're coming to us, what expectations do we have? It says right on the form that they should include relevant dates, and I just feel if you're needing to come before the board and get approval, it should be detailed. And I don't want to harm the students, and I want them to be able to reduce their fees, but I also feel like there's an expectation for the leaders of the school to provide us with enough information that we can make an informed decision on that. And I guess that's where my frustration point is on this one.
Any additional comments? Great discussion on this item. If there are no additional comments, those in favor, please indicate with aye. Aye. Any opposed with nay?
Nay.
The motion passes 6-1. Item F, a motion to change to phase 2 if deemed necessary. We had a pretty extensive conversation about this in study session. Is there anyone? I know we had in a previous meeting, we had talked about, I think it was the 23rd as being our target date. Or the last day of the first term, as being our target date to move to phase 2. Is there a motion to either adjust that date or stay with what we've got, move to a new date? Board Member Jensen?
I would move that we continue phase 1 until at least November 2nd with the request that our administration finds a way to increase instructional time in whatever way possible.
And I will second that.
Motion by Board Member Jensen and second by Board Member Rash. Discussion on the motion.
So are you saying come October 25th? Remind me dates. I don't have my calendar.
November 5th.
What's the first day of the second term?
The 26th.
So the 26th. On the 26th, McKay, are you talking that we continue phase 1 as is? Or do we want on the 26th to have more time at that point?
Next meeting is the morning of the 27th. Our next meeting is the morning of the 27th. The next business meeting is...
Yeah, business meeting 7:30 on the 27th.
I think that there's ample time. We have a meeting before then. My interest is it's difficult to stand alone. Parents are asking us about. At least we have this models Davis. It aligns us with somebody. It aligns us with Davis for right now. We're going to meet again on the 27th as this week progresses.
I was actually going to ask about Davis.
Yeah, because at least November 2nd, it seems like it's going to go to Thanksgiving, but we should. It's important enough that we should talk about it, And I know that our teachers want to say, this is consistency. The consistency is that we want our students in school. We're going to continue to talk about it. We're going to do our best to keep everyone safe. And I don't know how else we do that except talk about it.
And go ahead, Rebecca, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, you're fine.
No, I was just going to say, I think that his motion kind of addresses my two biggest concerns, like some certainty, so we have that date, but also that increased time. Like those to me are the two primary reasons. It doesn't throw us out so far. We aren't saying, till the end of the term. We aren't saying anything like that. Give some time to develop and see what that would be, and then, like McKay said, have that conversation at that point. It's not kicking the can down the road. It's giving us time to develop the other option, because I think more instructional time is, we've got to do that. We have to do that. We've got to find a way to do that, and buying a little bit more time to develop that will, and I know we don't want to go, that this term break was what we were hoping to do, but to me, this sounds like a good middle ground compromise for now, with some certainty and develop.
So I can commit to the board that we will develop an alternative model that's based on the concept of a couple of contacts a week at the secondary level, as opposed to only one in a given class. I have to tell you that I don't know what that will ultimately entail. It depends on a lot of work with the principals and working out their very distinctly different schedules. It's really possible that maybe the middle schools may have a different schedule than the high schools. High schools are probably a little easier to align because they're both on 4-period days, 8-period schedules. And so that might be a little simpler, but if you can let us have a little flexibility on how we do that, we'll bring back a model to you that we believe we can defend on the 27th when we meet in study session.
So my only concern with the motion, because I do like the idea of figuring out how to keep a hybrid with increased instruction time. Because like you say, Julie, the numbers are only going up. We're seeing so many quarantines in our schools. And the fact of the matter is, it doesn't matter how many days we want to have the kids in school or if they're on phase 1 or phase 2. If we have too many staff members on quarantine, there's no school regardless. So we have to be careful of that. My one concern with the motion is and with looking into a new model is November, I believe you said November 2nd, right? Is that enough time and notice for teachers and for the preparation it may take to change into that model? If we're talking about this again on October 27th, November 2nd is only 6 days later. And I just met with the faculty at Lakeview this last week, and one of the things they brought up to me was that their move to phase 2 just felt so rushed, and they just didn't have a lot of time to prepare. And I want to make sure I'm standing up for teachers as much as students. I want to give teachers enough time. I want to give students enough time. And I know we've already kind of been in prep mode, but if we're going to be changing the model, is that going to be enough time?
I'll try to answer that briefly.
Okay.
I think that there's a possibility, although I can't guarantee it because we haven't developed the model yet, but there's a possibility that the change will not be that abrupt. But certainly whatever we bring to you on the 27th could come with the caveat that you can adjust the implementation date. So it gives us a couple of target dates to work with, and we can work on that deadline and get something together, and then we'll bring it to you, and then ultimately that'll be your decision how soon you want to implement it.
So what I'm hearing is that a lot of people are supportive of staying in some form of a phase 1, just maybe changing the schedule. So I guess the question is, what exactly are we voting on? Because I feel like just saying, oh, we're pushing it one more week further, then there's uncertainty, well, what's going to happen after that week? But if we're saying we're going to stay in a phase 1 for longer and set a date further out for that, so there's at least that certainty. I mean, can we do that and then just say there might be an adjustment to the schedule?
I kind of think that's what he said, because right now our default is we start back at the end of the term, right?
Right.
So what the motion is to delay that, and so that leaves us where we are right now. And I agree with Rebecca that the time that was the one piece of feedback that I heard loud and clear for the elementary schools was that not knowing, even 1 week delay was just, it was horrible. It was horrible for the families, it was horrible for the teachers, it was horrible for everybody. And so if we don't get back and talk about this again until, the timing may be, we're going to be hanging out here until, you said what, October 27th. The 27th, and then the date,
So that's, like I said, that's only 6 days. And to Jennifer's point too, I just want to comment that I'm not sure, I know this feels like so much back and forth, the way we have kind of done this, how we just kind of delay a week and then we say we'll see, and then we delay and we say we'll see. I know that's a lot of back and forth and uncertainty. Maybe we're bringing in some of our own uncertainty, but I feel more comfortable doing that because my ultimate goal is to get the kids as much classroom time as possible, as soon as possible. I told the Lakeview folks the other day that my goal is to balance as much safety as possible with as much instructional time as possible in person. So I feel like maybe November 2nd is if that's maybe a little too soon, maybe just 1 week later on the 9th, maybe that makes a little bit more sense, just time-wise for people to prepare.
And if
but that's still soon enough that if we can do it, we should do it.
well, and if if the second, we're already missing that term deadline, right? That maybe that, I don't know, how would you feel about that, McKenna?
I also feel, though, too, that we're early enough in the term that our last decision was made close enough to the end of the term that it made very much sense to wait until the end of the term. But this is early enough in the term that I feel like we can still make the move, and it's not going to kind of mess up the flow like it would otherwise.
I agree that it's a close time. I do worry about going all the way to November 9th. That puts us another month of not having excess time in the classroom.
So I think we're signaling pretty clearly that on maybe as soon as November 2nd, we're going to have more face time for students with their teacher. That doesn't mean more students in the building, but that might be extended hours. That might be that there would be more face time on starting November 2nd. So we have from now to that on how that looks like, but we're planning about transportation, how precisely that looks like, what that looks like if the Independence is different, if Centennial is different, if Dixon is different. But for teachers, we would say you have the same number of students in the building, but you're teaching more classes, shorter amount of time for each class. And we're signaling that could happen as soon as November 2nd. We'll look at that, but the vote is phase 2 going to happen on the 23rd? Nope, we have to move that date. I would like to do that. One of the hardest part for teachers is managing their expectations, and we're trying to manage their academic expectations, and really, these are human expectations, and we know that if they show up on that day and it's different, mission accomplished. Thank you. We don't want to expect it to be perfect. We know that it's hard. We want you to feel as much flexibility and care, but we're trying to manage the human experience, not academic experience, the human experience of our students as well. And it's very hard for a school district or a school system, a statewide school system that has gone more efficient, higher achievement, constantly, to actually, we're in an emergency, a pandemic, we're trying to care for our community. This is what we're trying to do. And some of those other expectations are just coming down. And so that changeover is only difficult if people believe I have to have everything so perfect. And our teachers are such perfectionists. Bless them for their dedication to do that. But we're trying to care for our community first. And so I wouldn't want to give away perhaps that November 2nd date to change something.
Logistically, Superintendent, is this something that we can come get something in by November 2nd, logistically? Okay.
So McKay,
we'll try or die trying. We'll try.
McKay, let's clarify your motion so we know exactly what the motion is.
Can I just, Nate, did you want to say anything? I know you're on there.
Yeah, I'll say a couple things if you guys don't mind. I feel bad, first of all, for not being there. Sorry I got pulled away. But there have been a lot of studies that have been coming out. I read something from the Atlantic. I had a teacher send it to me that they worked with Qualtrics, and it's showing just that there's not a lot of transmissions going on in the school. I think the Washington Post also did a similar article. So I think as we learn more and more, we'll have some more confidence by the time we get to the 2nd or the 9th. And frankly, I'm fine either way, whether it's the 2nd or the 9th. I understand pushing it to the 9th so that teachers have 2 weeks to prep. I mean, that makes sense to me. I don't think where we are in our community that it makes sense to open right now because we'll just go straight back. Provost's so high. So those are my basic points. So I'm fine with either the 2nd or the 9th, is whatever the group agrees with. So that's it.
Okay.
I just don't feel that the 2nd would be giving teachers enough time unless we are telling them before our meeting on the 27th, here's the general plan, even though the board hasn't approved it, start getting ready now. But if we're not communicating anything officially to our teachers, they're not all watching this meeting right now. They're not going to be aware, and I feel like we've got to balance everything and keep that in mind. And the 9th is only 2 weeks past the date of when we had said maybe we're going to switch at the term, so.
McKay, let's clarify the motion.
Can I amend it?
Yes, amend the motion.
I'm not sure if I'm going to do this right, but I move to amend the first motion. And I move that we delay phase 2 in the secondary schools until November 9th with the caveat that we're, no?
No, stay in phase 1.
We're
going to extend the.
Okay, someone help me.
Here we go.
Okay.
So, the motion is, from the beginning, that phase 1 will be extended until at least November 9th. Asking our professional staff to come up with a plan to create more face time for instruction for our students with the same amount of students in the building, that we can proceed from November 9th forward.
Okay.
And do I
Should
second
that be
amendment?
Are you okay to second the amendment?
I will second that amendment.
Okay. Any other comment? I'm going to make one comment in just a minute.
I have another. Sorry, I'm talking loud. So I'm wondering if we would need to put this in this motion, or if I could make a motion after we vote on this, but I would like to address independence separately.
Let's address that separately in a separate motion.
Okay.
I don't know if anyone can.
So we will extend phase 1 until at least November 9th in the secondary schools, instructing administration to come up with a plan for additional face-to-face instruction for our students. In phase 1, yes. In the phase 1 configuration. Yep. Without adding students to the building, I guess.
We'll make sure that Bonnie has that. Okay? We capture that okay?
Did you hear that, Nate?
Nate, did you hear that okay?
I heard it.
Okay. The only comment I would make, and I'm thinking this through as if I were a teacher, and based on a little bit of my own experience, as we move into November, and historically for me as a teacher, you hit Halloween, and then you get Thanksgiving, and then you get Christmas and New Year's, and then trying to implement all this transition at the same time in preparation. I wonder about the impact on the teachers, as well as the classes and the students, and the continuity and disruptions that are going on. And I just think, wow, this is one more thing. And so as we look at the date, that's just part of what I'm trying to filter and work through, is the impact that this will be on the educational continuity with all the change and with all these holidays and all these disruptions that will be coming up.
And that's why
maybe if
in the
we
motion,
refer to
there
that
was
as
an
a target
important
date.
At least.
At least, I think that's the key there, at least, that on the
Okay.
27th, like we'll provide some certainty till then, but on the 27th, the conversation will have to happen again. So we can't, none of this is certain, right?
None of
Beyond
this
a
is
couple of
certain,
weeks.
and
So we can do a couple
more
weeks at a
governor's
time.
press conferences like today, and we are to second semester, absolutely. We're going to keep our staff and our students safe, but we owe it also to try and be innovative enough to get a little more impact into our students. That's why I want to make plans, and at least, and I don't just want to give up on it, even with the craziness of the holidays. That was probably one of the reasons I was looking at the second. but, you know, we need to move forward. We need to do different things. Nimble, right, Superintendent?
No,
Nimble.
yeah, nimble. We need to take
Like a
phase one
Clydesdale.
to the next level of phase one in some way.
Okay. Is there any additional discussion? Nate, anything else you want to add? Okay.
Nope.
Can I just add one public comment to the public? I just want to say thank you to the public for being patient with us as we try our best to figure out what's best during these very, very ridiculous and unpredictable times.
Thank you. Well, if there is no further comment, then I'll call the question. All in favor of the motion as made by Board Member Jensen and seconded by Board Member Rash, please indicate with aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Nay. The motion passes unanimously. That was a rather robust conversation. That was good. Board Member Partridge, you had...
I was just going to make a comment. Who would have guessed that the bond part of this meeting would be the easy part, right? I just want to point that out.
We're getting very good at robust conversations, aren't we? Yeah.
Okay, Jennifer, you had a possible motion about Independence High School.
Sure, and I might need help with rephrasing it, but I move that we allow Independence High School to go ahead and move to phase 2 as soon as they feel they're able to make that change.
Is there a second? Motion by Board Member Partridge. Is there a second to the motion?
Can I ask a question? Is there any transportation involved at Independence? Is there a bus that runs? Is there?
Yeah, they've got, I think they've got at least one bus, and then they were running some vans of their own that wouldn't impact transportation.
So in the cohort session, has the bus just been doing the same thing? So we're just putting more kids on the bus, is that right?
Yes, they would just be able to have all of their students there Monday through Thursday instead of half. And as I talked to the principal the other day, he just felt they could better meet the needs of their students, and their school is less impacted than the other schools, and so that he feels comfortable that that would be good for their school.
So they wouldn't be changing their bell schedule at all.
Can I ask some questions too?
As long as a bell schedule doesn't change, transportation should be fine.
Isn't this where we need a second so we can have
We
this
need
discussion?
to have a second to move on
Okay.
with further discussion.
I will go ahead and second it so we can have the conversation.
Seconded by Board Member Hall. Okay.
Can someone remind me the student population at Independence High School?
It's just under 200.
Just under 200. So is that going to allow Independence to continue to social distance within their classrooms? Okay.
Here's my one question about this. What happens, and I hesitate to even say this, but what happens, what is the option or the likelihood of other students deciding I'm going to go to Independence? And how do we manage that? Like, I don't know how all that works.
They have to apply to get in.
Okay.
And so, I mean, Independence at one point had as many as over 300 students in it. Since we've made it more of an academic focus as opposed to filling it up with students who are struggling behavior-wise at their regular schools, the numbers have dropped. They could grow, but there's a process of getting into the school.
And does that process take a while? Like, I'm just, that's my one concern about this, is what might happen to the population at Independence? How unmanageable might that become, even if we're just telling dozens and dozens and dozens of people, no, you have to apply, and how long does that process take?
You have to apply, and it's our preference that once you
What's the
go there, you
logistics?
stay there.
What was that?
The other part of that is you apply, and once you go there, you stay there. You graduate from Independence. The purpose to go to Independence is you're going to graduate a proud lion. You're going to be an Independence lion. So that's the choice.
It takes a day or two, maybe 3.
Right, I think we just need to be very clear on how we're going to manage that piece, because I think that could get really
Todd is
out of
not-
hand very quickly.
And what is the size they can take? I mean, you said they've been up to 300, but
We've
what's,
been over 300 before. In fact, we have not really reduced their staff since they've dropped down to their current numbers. So they do have capacity, but we would have to watch this from the perspective of social distancing. for
Exactly.
sure.
And then what does that do if we get them in there and then the social distancing is no longer
I don't know that I
possible?
would anticipate a significant increase there. It does tend to attract students with special graduation needs, and sometimes we struggle to fill it. In fact, Jacob, the principal, is trying to find a way to maybe attract more students to go there. So, but we'll have to watch it. We can put the brakes on this if we need to, and if the board would like to, I mean, if you would like to put a caveat in this and say you'd like to have us express or extend some caution on this, if we were to, let's say, exceed 225 or something like that, that'd probably give us enough room to grow but not explode. And certainly you can attach a number to this motion as well if you'd prefer.
Well, and I think I'm wondering, I mean, if you guys think that the population isn't as huge of a concern, that's good enough for me. Like, if you think it's manageable, but I also think we'll most likely get some pushback on this. Just wondering I think we're just going to need to be very clear why independence is a different situation. And we're going to have to be prepared to talk about that and be very open with that and put that information out there as clear as we possibly can.
I can attest to seeing the numbers daily at Independence, and somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but it's been zero for like forever. Have we had even one case there? Okay, maybe one.
Right, and so I think we just need to.
And I think that would be our best defense, is to say that it's very similar to where we were seeing with the elementary schools.
Well, and I think part of the case too is that there's a different need at Independence also. So I think all of that plays into it.
Yeah, because, I mean, Keith mentioned that it's about the academics there.
Right.
So,
Nate.
Yeah, when I was doing my teacher-student ratios, like the number was 10. So there's probably like 5 kids in a class right now, and sometimes you just get too few, and it's just miserable. So I'm kind of in favor of this just so that they can have some more kids and make it a little bit more social.
Any other comments or concerns? Todd, I'm just going to ask you, as from the secondary ed principal perspective, do you see any potential issues that we need to be aware of if we move this direction with one high school?
I was waiting for the opportunity. The school's been asking for this for a little bit, and they've been doing a very good job. As Board Member Hall has pointed out, they've had maybe one since the beginning of the school year, one quarantine. They are very small currently in their sizes. With our split schedule, we can manage much more and still maintain that social distancing. The school does look for a specific profile of student that they try to serve, and that would not change. And what I could commit is we'd bring back to the board on the 27th a plan of how we would manage that, what the cap might look like if we get to that point, and how we'd manage that all together.
Thank you. Any further discussion?
can somebody read back what the motion was, just so we know it?
Right there.
No, that's the other one.
Is it?
Okay. I move that we allow Independence High School to move to Phase 2 as soon as they feel like they can do so.
Or do we want to say to the end of the term? At the,
How about at the discretion of the principal?
At the discretion of the principal. And
Doug,
where do I put the
Doug
time?
has something he wants to say. Okay. Okay.
At the
Thank you for that clarification.
So at the discretion of the principal, I move that we allow Independence High School to move to phase 2 at the discretion of the principal.
Okay, so we have had this motion morph considerably. I think what we need to do is vote on the original motion, and then if it's defeated, we can have the new motion that was just presented by, that was just restated, and get a second, and then move forward. I think that's the procedure we're going to need to follow here.
Can I
So-
just amend it like we did with our last motion?
Um,
Because all we're changing is,
We're getting so many amendments, we need to act on the
This is a
motion.
separate motion. It's a separate motion, though.
Wants to make a separate, well, we need to act on the motion that's already on the table first.
Right, she wants to amend that.
Because this is
That
just
motion.
one amendment.
So I
'Cause
think
the
we're
I
okay.
thought we had two.
The other one
No,
was the
Okay.
other
it's
motion.
just one.
so all we're doing is we're changing as soon as they're able to, at the discretion of the principal, correct?
So unfortunately, I don't know about the rules, but I don't know how to add a motion in here that we didn't already have on the agenda, so I
If
just
you
put
want
it
to
in the
make a
notes,
friendly,
and I'm gonna
make a
do it
friendly,
later.
if you make a friendly amendment, and if McKay's okay with that, and if Julie is okay to second it, we can move forward, I believe.
It was Melanie that had seconded it
Or
originally.
Melanie seconded. So your friendly amendment would be what?
To change that last phrase to at the discretion of the principal.
So the motion will now read what?
I move that we allow Independence High School to move to phase 2 at the discretion of the principal.
McKay, we're good with that?
Yep.
Melanie, are you good?
I will
Melanie,
second that.
you're good with that? Anybody who has anything else to say? If not,
Can I?
Keith?
I would suggest we add that to that in consultation with the Assistant Superintendent over secondary schools.
At the
I don't
discretion of the principal
we-
in consultation with the assistant superintendent of secondary schools.
I
At
will
the
second that.
discretion of the principal in consultation with the assistant superintendent for
Sorry, but we
secondary
don't
schools.
do things on our own around here, so.
And I think that probably is important to make sure.
Yes.
Okay?
One more time. I move that we allow Independence High School to move to phase 2 at the discretion of the principal in consultation with the Assistant Superintendent of Secondary Education.
Yes. We're all good
Okay.
with the language of the motion now?
Thank you for everybody's help.
You're good with this, you're good to second that, Melanie? We've reinvented Robert's Rules of Orders a bit, but that's okay. I guess, McKay, we're not held firmly to those, are we?
The purpose of it is it so that we all understand. We all understand,
We're all in agreement with what.
we're all in agreement, and we understand what the motion is.
Okay, we are good to move on then.
You have to vote then.
McKay, or Nate, does all this make sense?
Kinda, yeah.
The most important thing you need to know right now is yes. I'm joking. All in favor of the motion as amended and seconded by Board Member Hall, please indicate with yay.
Yay.
Yay. Any opposed, if so? The motion passes, finally. I don't think we've ever had a motion take this long.
Gotta keep it interesting.
Is there a motion to approve the consent calendar?
So moved.
Motion by Board Member Jensen, is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion about the consent calendar? If not, and seeing none, all in favor of approving the consent calendar, please indicate with aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay? Thank you, we got through that. And now it will be my privilege to do a board member report, and I'm going to make this brief. We've been here plenty this evening. What I was thinking of is really just thinking about what it means to be a board member. And I think tonight was a great example of what it means to be a board member. When we came in, we each had some strong feelings about the issues that were coming before us. But we were collegial, we were open, we were honest. We had a frank discussion. We openly shared our feelings and perspectives on the issues. And that's what a good board does. And we took the time necessary to seek to make the best decision possible given the data we have at hand. And in this situation, in an ever-changing environment. I probably can't express thanks enough to those members of the board, and particularly Melanie, for the hours and hours she is in those safety committee meetings. That goes way above and beyond, I think, what you probably thought about when you became a member of the board.
COVID was not on my agenda.
That's probably almost like her second home. And I know that each member of the board spends a considerable amount of time weighing and evaluating and thinking about their responsibilities and all the information that comes in, kind of like a fire hose right now. Trying to take in and synthesize and put together what will be the very best decision for all. And maybe just an observation or two that I have gained having served on the board now almost for 8 years is the importance for me of realizing that while I am one voice and I represent one district, I can't allow my vision to be limited to that one district. To be an effective board member, I need to have a vision that expands and considers absolutely every district in the city and absolutely every student in the district and every teacher and every paraprofessional, every administrator. The decisions that I make as a board member need to consider all of those things. If I consider anything less, I am not fulfilling my responsibility as a member of the board. And I also have learned the importance of being willing to let go when I need to of personal biases when there are greater needs that come into play. And that sometimes is a challenge. But I'm grateful for this board and for each of you who are so willing and able to do that. It takes a truly, in my estimation, remarkable individual to set ego and check it at the door, and then to look and see how you can bless and benefit others through your course of action and service. And so thank you for the opportunity to serve with such marvelous individuals whose bottom line is making sure that the children in Provo get the best possible education we can provide. And with that, Superintendent, any approved travel or miscellaneous items that you have?
So per the agenda, I have no approved travel to report. And a few days ago, I received a letter from the Utah Association for Career Technical Education. This is a professional organization for CTE teachers. And I just wanted to acknowledge that Denise Abbott, Jan Jardine, and Karen Bradley, 3 of our secondary teachers, are serving in executive leadership positions in that organization. This letter publicly thanks them for that, and so I wanted to mention this. That's all for my report tonight.
Can I make one more
Yep.
report? I just want to say congratulations to the Timpview tennis girls team for taking state.
Thank you very much.
And I apologize if I don't know others that have taken state so far.
We've all had so much fun, I hesitate to do this, but is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
We are adjourned. Thank you all for being with us this evening and for your comments and input.